Your Excellency, Honorable Mario Fair, the Cantonal Councillor of Zurich Canton, the Stadt Mayor, Honorable Mark Eberly, the Abbot of Rikon Shokorgun, the dignitaries who are Tibetans but also are part of the Swiss government system. Namne Kangshin Sangla, Jimishi Sangla, and Chumbe Balogla. The President, Vice President, Executive members of the Tibetan community of Switzerland and Liechtenstein, the President and Vice Presidents of the non-governmental organizations. On behalf of the Tibet Bureau Geneva, I would like to convey my heartfelt greetings to everyone present here on the 35th anniversary of the commemoration of Nobelpeace Prize to His Holiness the Great 14th Dalai Lama. As I was very briefly mentioning in Tibetan language, the official statement of the Kashak has already been delivered on the 10th December in Dharamsala, and very kindly Nima Dobala has read out the statement in Tibetan for the benefit of all the community members here. On this very important occasion, may I take a few moments to remember and to ensure that we as each Tibetans remember the great many benefactions of His Holiness the Dalai Lama, not only for the Tibetan community, but also for the world towards love, peace and compassion. On 10th December 1989, the Nobel Committee awarded the Nobelpeace Prize to His Holiness the Dalai Lama, not just because he was a Tibetan and a religious leader, but mainly because he was a world leader who was presenting peaceful means of resolving conflict, especially in terms of the Tibet-China conflict. He is revered for his message of peace in times of trouble, message of love in times of conflict, and message of compassion in times of hatred. This goes to the root of what it means to not only be a Tibetan Buddhist, but also to be a human being. And as a recognition for his contribution to the world, the Nobel Committee decided to award the Nobelpeace Prize to His Holiness the Dalai Lama. And since then, every year, we remember, we celebrate, and we get together to remind everyone that His Holiness the Dalai Lama is not just a spiritual leader of the Tibetans, but also a world leader who is revered across. But at the same time, it's very important to remember that inside Tibet, Tibetans continue to suffer. It has been over 60 years that Tibetans inside Tibet are not allowed to possess even a picture of His Holiness the Dalai Lama. Today we have gathered here to celebrate and commemorate, and Tibetans inside Tibet are not even allowed to speak his name. His Holiness the Dalai Lama has contributed his entire life for the benefit of those ancient beings, but also to find a peaceful resolution on Tibet-China conflict. And to this day, it remains an unresolved international conflict. And it is upon each one of us to ensure that we continue the movement that has been started by His Holiness the Dalai Lama and his guidance. As in the Kashak statement, it states that the European Union representative, made a very important statement at the UN Human Rights Council recently concluded. Even at the UN General Assembly, European countries led by Australia made a very strong statement on the atrocities that are happening inside Tibet. Even for that matter, the Swiss Parliamentary Group for Tibet made a very strong statement calling upon the United Nations and the international community to raise awareness about the human rights violations that are taking place inside Tibet. I think it is very important at this juncture that we not only remember what is happening inside Tibet, but also take it upon ourselves to ensure that the Tibetan movement for freedom is remembered, is contributed enough, and it goes on beyond. May I also take this opportunity to once again thank Honorable Mario Fair for his very strong contribution, especially when His Holiness the Dalai Lama blessed us with his presence in Zurich a few months back. Without his steadfast support, it would have been very difficult for the Tibetans in Switzerland to organize such a grand celebration in his presence. May I also take this opportunity to thank all the supporters of Tibet and Tibetan movement for freedom. I think without their support, the Tibetan movement would not have been what it is today. May I also take this opportunity to thank the elder generation of Tibetans who have come here, leaving behind home, both in Tibet and India, and have established such a strong community in Switzerland. I think without the contribution of our elder generation, that would not also have been possible. In my concluding remarks, may I remind you that the Tibetan movement is still alive, and we should each bear the responsibility to ensure that the Tibetan movement for freedom goes on. Thank you so much for your time. May His Holiness live long, and may there be one day when we are all back together in front of Potala and receive his blessings and teachings once again. Thank you.